tale begins on a stormy night, with the main character lying unconscious in a shadowy alley. As he lay unconscious on the damp asphalt, an unusual green mist began to curl from his hand. The sudden shock snapped him out of his sleep, leaving him overwhelmed by pain and completely bewildered by his surroundings. Despite his struggles, the young man gradually rises to his feet, feeling disoriented and completely unaware of what is happening around him. At that moment, he questioned his surroundings, uncertain if he had survived or perished in the enormous blast. Jin's head throbbed with pain, but he still recalled that he had once belonged to an elite special forces team. He remembered a time when his team had fallen into a dangerous trap while on a mission. The organization they trusted had turned against them, sacrificing them as decoys to lure the explosion exactly where it was needed. At that moment, he recalls meeting his end amidst a powerful and frightening explosion. In the present moment, he finds himself accidentally stepping into an unusual green puddle that lies close by on the ground. The ache spreading through his body intensifies with every passing moment, making him understand that he must quickly search for somewhere secure to conceal himself. His gaze shone with urgency while he searched the surroundings, hoping to spot a place where he could take cover. He notices a glow coming from a neighboring house and wonders if it means the place is occupied. He approached the door with care, stepped inside, and called out to see if someone was there who could offer assistance. Upon entering, he discovers a man who is startled by his unexpected arrival, leaving him taken aback by the reaction. Without warning, a piercing scream of agony burst from the man inside the house, his body enveloped by a swirling cloud of darkness. The man twists in pain, letting out desperate screams while turning in his chips, as the young man simply observes everything happening before him. From outside, the protagonist noticed a sudden scream echoing through the air, catching sight of a manhole cover soaring upward and feeling puzzled about what could have caused such a commotion. Within the house, the man's body collapses without warning, causing the young man to stand in bewilderment, unsure of what has just happened. Beside him on the ground rests a grimy metal plate, once owned by the man who now lies fallen. The young man bent down and retrieved the mysterious item, his mind swirling with curiosity about its possible identity. Just then, a mysterious person wearing a hood and a mask shaped like a skull stepped into view, flashing a wickedly sinister smile. He was accompanied by a second masked figure as they both stepped into the house, their attention quickly drawn to the lifeless body lying on the floor. One of the intruders extended his hand, causing a vivid purple energy to radiate with a brilliant glow. The group insisted that no one could be allowed to witness what was happening, and they made it clear that they needed to take possession of the object the protagonist held. As the two figures approached, the young man reflected on how he had narrowly escaped death before, questioning if the Grim Reaper had now come to claim him for good. While the masked attackers closed in on their target, the man lying on the ground began to glow with a crimson hue. The masked man's eyes widened in disbelief as he realized the danger, quickly signaling to his partner that they needed to escape before the body exploded. Taking advantage of the moment, the young hero springs away from the chaos, making a remarkable jump to freedom. He touched down on the street and with swift movements, he shouts desperately, warning that unless assistance arrives, he will throw the item away and allow another person to claim it. A person lifts the manhole cover, offering him a place to conceal himself. The young man expressed his gratitude to his helpers for concealing him, then gently shut the lid to complete his hiding place. Suddenly, he darted away from the spot, accompanied by an enigmatic girl who had just emerged from the sewer. After landing flawlessly, the hero remained vigilant, prepared to face any threat that could arise unexpectedly. Without warning, someone pressed a gun against the back of his neck, leaving him utterly stunned and off guard. The young hero's eyes widened in disbelief and anger as he recognized the girl he had just assisted, now standing before him with a threat. The girl wondered aloud about the stranger's identity and questioned his reasons for intervening with her brother. In response, the young man simply explained that he was only trying to escape the rain. She insists that he give her the item, and the boy explains that it can be found in his coat. Having run out of options, he reluctantly gives the metal plate to the girl. When the girl takes the object, her face shifts, sorrow and heartbreak clearly showing in her eyes. Tears rolled down her face while she desperately reached out, longing for her brother who was no longer alive. She drops to her knees, confusion and pain filling her eyes as she wonders what could drive her brother to sacrifice everything for a mere emblem. She believes the world is harsh, and admits she feels lost about continuing without his support. He let out a deep sigh, reflecting on how he thought he would never witness that sorrowful expression again since his rebirth. As he gazed at the weeping girl before him, a shadow from his past flickered across his eyes. Desperation filled the person's expression, mirroring the hopelessness seen in war refugees who had been stripped of all they once had. In his past, everyone he encountered had lifeless eyes, as if all hope had drained away. He also recalls the women who, after being separated from their loved ones, were freed from captivity in dark dungeons. He could not find relief or happiness in their gaze. Instead, what met him was an unfathomable emptiness and a sorrow that seemed to have no end. They had already lost all that mattered to them, and though they managed to escape one horror, it only led them into another, where new pain awaited. He noticed the girl shedding tears right before him, and a wave of empathy washed over him as he witnessed her sadness. He tried to reassure her, explaining that her brother had employed him as a mercenary to watch over her and keep her safe. The girl informs him that his time is almost up, prompting him to question her about the reason. She reveals that his prolonged stay in the Shadow Realm has started to cause his hand to become misshapen. She explained that they had entered the city of the dead, where the rain was unlike any other, far more perilous and threatening. The rainfall would eventually dry, transforming into a powerful acid, and anyone caught beneath its drops faced a certain and deadly end. At that moment, he finally realized the reason behind his growing weakness. He then inquires about her origins and seeks to know the identities of the masked men who attacked them. She explained the situation with the districts and the mages, while he, still bewildered, wondered aloud about their current year and location. The girl explains that it is the 1000th year since the event within the powerful Flying Eagle Empire. The main character's lips curl into a grin as he comes to the startling realization that he has been transported, as if by magic, into a strange and unfamiliar world. He wanted to know the steps to becoming a professional, but the girl shook her head, explaining that it wasn't as simple as he thought. She explains that possessing an emblem allows a person to unlock either a combat support or special class. In response, she reveals the emblem to him, explaining that her brother obtained it, which allowed her to unlock her abilities. Tears welled up in her eyes as she sorrowfully acknowledged that her brother was gone forever and would not return. Observing the girl's distress, the young man wonders aloud if she has any family members living close by. She explained that her brother was the last remaining member of her family in a world filled with hardship and peril. She admits to herself that, without his presence and without having awakened her own powers, she would not last long on her own. The protagonist let out a sigh, reflecting on how both of them seemed like unlucky individuals fated for sorrowful lives. He gazes at the young woman and begins to express that, should he make it through everything, he intends to. Without warning, a massive explosion erupts just behind the group, leaving the girl frozen in fear. The barrier had been demolished, and the protagonist suddenly understood that their adversaries had broken into the secret base. He urgently shouted at her to wake up right away, warning that if she didn't, they would both be in serious trouble. With unwavering resolve, the girl seizes the emblem and firmly holds it to her forehead, hoping to unlock the abilities hidden within her. Despite her efforts, the emblem unleashed a powerful energy that hurled the girl backward, stopping her from regaining consciousness. She cried out in frustration, feeling as though the object was pushing her away. The item slipped from her grasp, landing uselessly on the blood-stained ground without causing any change. Still puzzled, she clarifies that rejection occurs solely when there is either incompatibility or insufficient skill. Overwhelmed by emotion, she begins to weep, her heart heavy with the thought that her brother's sacrifice had been in vain, leaving her with a deep sense of helplessness. Just then, the pair of masked adversaries sprang forward, prepared to launch their assault. One of the men crashes onto the ground, steadily advancing toward the two who have been backed into a corner. The group taunted the pair, questioning the reason the small rat had halted, while the girl shot them an angry glare, her eyes blazing with fury. The leader of the masked group flashes an ominous grin, preparing himself for the impending battle. He commanded his followers to eliminate both targets and retrieve the emblem, insisting that they succeed at any cost. The protagonist's agony intensified as the acid rain burned his skin, and the girl quickly realized just how much he was suffering. Noticing what was happening, she suddenly thought of a plan and hurried over to the young man, clutching the emblem tightly in her hands. The girl acts quickly, firmly placing the object against the boy's forehead in a desperate attempt to alter the course of his destiny. A surge of deep crimson energy burst outward from his body, while mysterious symbols materialized and floated around him. A glowing circle of magic appeared above his head, signaling his transformation as a message from the system, announced that his class had successfully changed. Empowered by newfound abilities, he rose to his feet, his expression grave as a sword appeared at his side. A glowing status window appeared before him, revealing that he had gained the Demon Swordsman class along with a list of impressive new powers. He faces the upcoming battle with determination etched across his features. He found himself taken aback when the panel appeared before him, quickly realizing that the world around him functioned according to rules similar to those found in a video game system. The girl beams with happiness, thinking the emblem suits him flawlessly, and feels proud that he has finally reached the level of a professional. However, one of the opponents becomes furious, raising his voice in protest over their unauthorized use of the emblem. The masked men surged ahead, brandishing their scythes, and unleashed a blast of green energy toward their opponents. As the threat drew nearer, the girl stood rooted to the spot, paralyzed by fear. The young man quickly moved in front of her, shielding her from harm by intercepting the attack with his sword. The enemies stared in disbelief, their voices rising in protest at the unexpected strength of the defense, insisting that such a thing could not be possible. Not hesitating for even a moment, he dashes straight at his challengers, determined to strike back. He shouted a command for their destruction and swung his sword, releasing a surge of shadowy energy that swept over his enemies. The villains quickly notice that he has already taken in the emblem's power, and they urgently call out to their allies, warning them to halt his advance. He glanced at his opponents with confidence, certain that they were giving themselves far too much credit in this fight. The enemy swung a scythe toward him, but his sword met the attack, and the force of their collision sent a burst of brilliant sparks through the air. The surge of energy struck the masked men directly, causing them to cry out in agony as their bodies dissolved into nothingness. The girl stared in disbelief at the display of his strength, her mind racing with questions about how he had managed to become so powerful in such a short amount of time. The young man himself to complete the task he had begun. He glances down at his hand, suddenly noticing that the emblem's power has fully restored his once wounded body. The rest of the opponents felt embarrassed about being defeated by someone so inexperienced, admitting among themselves that there was no way to turn back now. Wearing a menacing expression, he announces that no one will escape and declares that their fate is sealed. He lunged ahead with his sword raised, declaring that none of them would ever leave this place. With swift accuracy, he eliminates the final opponents, ensuring none are left standing. He glanced at the bodies scattered before him and urgently insisted that they needed to leave immediately, fearing that someone might soon uncover the scene. He gazes upward, noticing a distant opening far above, and begins to question how escape might be possible. The girl explained that she had used this spot as a hiding place in the past, gesturing for him to come with her while revealing an explosive device. She smiled as she turned on the device, mentally preparing herself for the impending explosion. An eruption bursts through the wall, tearing open a gap wide enough for them to make their getaway. The group moved through the passageway, and the protagonist, astonished, wondered aloud if their attempt had truly succeeded. The young woman gestured toward the path ahead, indicating that a ladder awaited on the opposite side for them to ascend. After an hour of traveling, the group reached a bustling city. The protagonist looked around and felt a sense of belonging, thinking to himself that this place was now his home. The girl welcomes him inside, leading him into a space that clearly serves as her workshop. She mentions that although the place is somewhat untidy, it is still completely livable. The young woman gestures for him to take a seat as she quickly straightens up the clutter around them. The young man observed how challenging it must be for her to manage the shop alone. While she stored the tools, his words appeared to make her pause and reflect. The young woman's eyes reflected her sorrow as she explained that there was once another with her, but now she faced the world alone. He expressed regret for mentioning her brother, but she reassured him that it didn't bother her. Without warning, a person stormed into the store, voicing frustration about the late opening time. 3 men's silhouettes filled the doorway, catching the young woman off guard as she realized she had unexpected guests. She saw an elderly man bearing a scar across his face, and immediately realized he was a warlord. The man inquires whether the girl's brother has mentioned the agreement between them, which only deepens her confusion. A wicked grin spreads across the warlord's face as he notices her confusion, understanding that she cannot grasp what he means. Without offering any reason, he instructed his subordinate to escort the young woman out at once. The two men seized her with rough hands, causing her to cry out in desperation as she pleaded for her freedom. Noticing the unfairness unfolding before him, the young man moves ahead, ready to take action. The young man raised his voice, demanding that they halt, which caught the leader of the group off guard and left him astonished by the unexpected boldness. The old man, seething with anger, wonders aloud about the identity of the boy who dares to interfere in his affairs, as the young woman remains trapped. The protagonist stared boldly at the man, silently demanding to know by what authority he dared to claim her. The leader asserted his authority as a warlord and moved aggressively closer to the young man. The hero believes the old man is trustworthy, since his special power detects evil and finds no trace of malice within him. The young man decided to take a different approach, inquiring about how much the warlord valued the girl. The leader shared that her brother had believed he would survive and return safely from pit number 1, a dangerous mine. He explains that the pit is crawling with worms, and the goal is to retrieve his desired item and escape safely. The warlord then makes a vow to return the girl if his mission is successful. Before anything else, he decides to assess the young man's abilities and swiftly steps forward, aiming to strike with great force. In a sudden burst of movement, the warlord hurls a powerful punch directly toward the young man.